Everyone has an explanation. That is the first thing you notice when you spend any time inside this story. Everyone who has an opinion, and the number of people who have an opinion is approximately equal to the number of people who have heard the name, has assembled the explanation from the available pieces and arrived somewhere confident. The divorce rumors, the public absences, the specific silences that replaced what had previously been presence, the images that stopped, the events attended alone that had previously been attended together. Everyone looked at these pieces and built something from them and called what they built the reason. None of them are seeing the real one, not because they are lying, because the real reason is not in any of the pieces that are visible. It is in something that happened quietly, over time, in the private interior of a relationship that was never public, in the way that allowed for the real version to be observed. The visible pieces are real, the conclusions built from them are wrong, and the gap between the real pieces and the wrong conclusions is exactly the size of the thing nobody is saying. I am going to say it. But first I need you to understand something about how marriages end. Not the dramatic version. Not the single catastrophic event, the betrayal discovered, the door slammed. The moment that becomes the official reason because it is specific and nameable and fits into a sentence. That version exists. Some marriages end that way. Clean breaks with clear causes that can be identified and pointed to and used to explain everything that followed. This was not that kind of ending. This was the other kind. The kind that is harder to explain and harder to understand and almost impossible to describe to someone who has not been inside it, because it does not have a single cause and it does not have a specific moment and it does not produce a clean sentence that answers the question of what happened. It produces something messier and more honest than that. It produces the truth, which is always more complicated than the explanation. The truth is this: he did not fall out of love with her. I want to say that clearly before anything else, because the version that has been circulating implies this, and the implication is wrong, and it has been wrong since the beginning, and it has done damage that a correction now cannot fully undo, but that I am going to attempt anyway. He did not stop loving her. He did not find someone who replaced her in the way that replacement usually works, the new thing making the old thing feel insufficient by comparison. The presence of something different making the absence of the previous thing feel like relief. That did not happen. What happened was different, more specific, more painful in a way that the simple version is actually not, because the simple version has a logic to it that makes it bearable in a way that what actually happened does not. If he had stopped loving her, there would be a reason. Reasons are bearable. Reasons make sense. Reasons give you some way to put your understanding so that the understanding has a home and the home is solid and you can live alongside it without it collapsing. What happened does not have a reason in that sense. What happened was a distance. Not created by anyone. Not caused by a specific decision or a specific failure or a specific moment where something broke that could have been kept whole if different choices had been made. A distance that grew the way distances grow in certain relationships. Not through conflict, but through the accumulation of small moments where two people are separately present inside the same shared life, and the separateness is not dramatic and is not even particularly noticeable in any individual instance, but adds up across time into something that eventually becomes the defining feature of the situation rather than a temporary state within it. They were living parallel lives inside a shared one. This started before either of them named it. That is the nature of this particular kind of distance. It does not announce itself. It does not arrive with a drama that would force an immediate response. It settles in slowly, almost imperceptibly, the way a room cools when the heat has been off for a long time. You do not notice it in any single moment. You notice it when you reach for warmth that should be there and find that it has been gone for longer than you realized. She reached for it first, not aggressively, not in the way of someone who has identified a problem and is confronting it directly, in the quiet way of someone who has felt an absence and is moving toward where the presence used to be to see if it is still there. Small gestures, the specific kind of reaching that is designed not to be visible as reaching, that can be attributed to other things if it is not received, so that the person reaching does not have to name what they were doing if the reach finds nothing. She reached, he was elsewhere, not with someone else. I want to be precise about this, because the elsewhere has been interpreted in the direction of someone else. and that interpretation is wrong. He was elsewhere in the way that people are elsewhere when the life they are living has become something they are managing rather than inhabiting. When their responsibilities have grown to the point where presence, actual presence, the kind that is available to the person in front of you rather than distributed across everything that requires your attention, becomes something that happens in intervals rather than continuously. He was present in intervals. She needed more than intervals, not because she was demanding, not because her needs were excessive or unreasonable, or more than someone in her position should expect, because what she had been given at the beginning, the specific quality of his attention when he was full and undivided and genuinely there, had shown her what was possible. And having been shown what was possible, the intervals felt not like what was available, but like a reduction of what had been there, and was now being rationed. She never said this to him directly. This is the part that nobody is saying, not because it reflects badly on her. It does not reflect badly on her. It reflects the specific difficulty of saying certain true things to people you love when saying them feels like an accusation, and you do not want to accuse because you understand the pressures that produce the thing you are experiencing, and you do not want to make them responsible for something that feels like it has no simple cause. She understood his pressures. She had always understood them. She had entered the relationship with clear eyes about what his life required of him, and she had made her peace with those requirements before she ever allowed herself to fully arrive inside the relationship. She was not someone who had been surprised by the demands of his position. She had known, she had accepted, but knowing and accepting in advance is different from living inside the reality of it across years. You can understand something completely and still feel its weight. You can have made peace with a thing and still on specific moments feel the cost of the peace you made. She felt the cost, quietly, privately, without ever making him responsible for what she was feeling, because making him responsible felt like a betrayal of the understanding she had committed to. So she held it. He held his distance. Neither of them said the thing that needed to be said. And this specific silence between two people who both understood something and neither of them said it, is the real reason. Not a dramatic cause, not a betrayal or a revelation or a moment of crisis, a silence, extended across too much time, filled in by the practical business of a shared life that continued to function even as the thing underneath the functioning became something neither of them could find their way back to. By the time it was named, it was already too late for naming to help. This is the thing about distances of this kind. They have a threshold. On one side of the threshold, the distance is a problem that can be addressed, named, worked on, closed to the specific effort of two people who have identified what is happening and are choosing to do something about it. On the other side, the distance has become the relationship. It is no longer a feature of the situation that can be changed. It is the situation itself. They crossed the threshold without noticing they were crossing it. By the time she named it quietly, carefully, in the specific way she did everything, they were already on the other side. By the time he heard what she was saying and understood that she was not describing a temporary state but a permanent one, the permanent one had already been established. He did not argue with her. This is the detail that the people close to the situation remember most. They expected, given who he is and what was at stake and how much had been built between them, something more resistant, some version of refusal or negotiation, or the specific energy of someone who has been told something final and is not ready to accept the finality.